To welcome Politics 2023, and here we discuss issues around the 2023 general election. All right, so Pastor Stanley, it's good to know that your party eventually has a document to back its campaign promises now that Nigerians can refer to in the event that it goes the way you want it to go. But first off, the policy documents, according to Mr. Peter Obi, now I'm going to be reading verbatim from that document. I have it right here with me. It says, our commitment to offer honest and competent leadership to deliver our 7 priorities. And these are the priorities, according to Mr. Obi, to secure Nigeria and end banditry and insurgency and unite our dear nation to manage our diversity such that no one is left behind. That's the first priority. Shift emphasis from consumption to production by running a production-centered economy that is driven by an agrarian revolution and export-oriented industrialization. That's the second priority. The third priority, according to the document, is to restructure the polity through effective legal and institutional reforms to entrench the rule of law, aggressively fight corruption, reduce costs of governance, and establish an honest and efficient civil service. Leapfrog Nigeria into the 4th industrial revolution through the application of scientific and technological innovations to create a digital economy. Build expansive and world-class infrastructure for efficient power supply, rail, road, and air transportation, and pipeline network through integrated public-private partnerships and entrepreneurial public sector governance. Enhance the human capital of Nigerian youths. Let this come up. I'm sorry. Enhance the human capital of Nigerian youth for productivity and global competitiveness through investment in world-class scholarship and research, quality healthcare, and entrepreneurship education. And last but not least, conduct an Afrocentric diplomacy that protects the rights of Nigerian citizens abroad and advance the economic interests of Nigerians and Nigerian businesses in a changing world. I don't know if you've gone through the policy document, Mr. Stanley.
Of course I have.
And you understand some of the issues highlighted and solutions highlighted right in the document.
Yes, I do.
Okay, now, because we do not have much time on our hands on this show this morning, I'll highlight some of the key areas. For instance, according to this document, Mr. Obi, I wouldn't want to personalize this because this is not a one-man arrangement. I'm aware that this is an Obidati document, right?
Definitely.
And I'm sure there would be some consultations here and there before this was put together. Now, he says, the document now says that before you can proffer solutions to any problem, you have to know the pathology of such problem. And according to Mr. Obi, the pathology of Nigeria's problem is elite capture.
Very well.
This is not, it's written in the document that elite capture is one of the biggest problems Nigeria is facing right now. Now, the question that I want us to answer right now is, a lot of Nigerians will want to know how a man who was a former governor for 8 years, a member of the People's Democratic Party until the very last minute, after probably he projected that he might not really be able to clinch the ticket of the party, defected from a one-time ruling party in Nigeria to the Labour Party, I think about a few weeks before, after the primary election held in the PDP, is now talking about elite capture. Is he by any means trying to dissociate himself from the same elite group that he's been part of actively for so many years now? We need clarification before we even start to talk about other issues.
Okay, thank you very much. When you say being a part of, I would love to say that my principal, by way of antecedents, have shown that he's not a part of that elite capture. And I'll say to you that we are all aware that Peter Obi began his political adventure under the Abga party, where he did magnificently well in terms of cutting down costs, in terms of reviving the educational and health sector of the state. It is on record that the rate of poverty in the state dropped by well over between 14 and 19%. Now, it's also on record that Peter Obi was the only governor who did not leave the state in the deficit, based on his promise to an ambience that a certain percentage of whatever he receives will be saved. And thereafter that, because of his respect for the then president Goodluck Jonathan, he was invited to the People's Democratic Party to help serve the nation in the economic platform of the nation. And we can see his input there with the likes of Okonjo-Iweala, and we were able to have one of the biggest economy in Africa, the largest economy in Africa as at then. Now, let me also say that it's on record that while he was governor, and in that team, he was among the few persons who advocated for a need for the federation to save rather than spend. But he was not the captain of the boat, number one. Number two, Peter Obi could only play an advisory role, and we saw the way the deposition of so many other governors that led to the frivolous spending of our national resources, and that has largely deepened the crisis that we have as a country. Now, like I was talking to my brother earlier on before we came on air, it is very important that in Nigeria political structure, you must run on the platform of a party. But I would love to take reference from the biblical scripture of the person Moses. The fact that Moses grew in the house of Pharaoh didn't make him a part of the Egyptians. And we can see how that story turned out. And I know that irrespective of Peter Obi's involvement in politics, he has just somehow found a way to maintain his sanity and his integrity. And that's one of the reasons I love the man for. Thank you.
Okay, now you've been able to highlight some of the achievements that your principal was able to implement when he was governor of Anambra State at that time. But the question I asked is, he is talking about elite capture, meaning that a select group of Nigerians who are in the elite group are right now putting the country under some sort of what you would want to call holding the country hostage, according to him. That's the interpretation of elite capture. Now, he's been part of this same group for years, regardless of what he was able to achieve, whether he played advisory role or not. You cannot take away the fact that it was part of the group. Why is he now making it seem as if he's a saint and has never been part of them and is coming with a clean slate and is coming to offer something totally different? Is there anything different about Peter Obi right now because he's running under the platform, of the Labour Party?
Now, Peter Obi, I'll say it again, was never and is never part of that elite group. Now, the elite group, Aisha Buhari, wife of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has been heard over and over say that there were certain cabals that hijacked the government. Now, when you say part of this elite group are a set of people who have continually milked the nation, use their position meant to better the life of Nigerians for their own personal gain. And I need us to capture that. Now, Peter Obi has not in any way used his position for personal gain. Now, by virtue of his rising through the ranks as a businessman, successful, he would naturally and eventually ventured into politics. Yes, he would have one or two relations with these people, but this is a man who has maintained his stand on prudence, competence, and integrity. And for me, that's something that every Nigeria should take cue for. Like I was saying to my brother again, while we were just getting to know ourselves, I said to him, in my over 4 decades on earth, I have never been actively involved in politics. I have never been inspired like I am today. And I'm a pastor. I'm supposed to just stay behind the corridors of my ministry and just say, okay, it stops there. But I am coming out to the fore to tell people that for me, I believe that there is hope for Nigeria, because the politics in Nigeria is such that if they have a debt on you, for Peter Obi to come out and say his colleagues, let me put it that way, are responsible for the predicament of the country. And up till now, nobody has been able to say, hey, you are a part of us. You did this, you did that, you did that. And in Nigeria, at every slightest opportunity, they would have a debt on you. And I'm very sure that this man has maintained it. Someone who said over 6 months ago, I received over 500 billion as governor. If you can show me a percentage, as much as 1%, where that money was misappropriated or came into my personal coffers, I will cease from this bid to become the president or to foster the change and the transformation of Nigeria. And 6 months down the line, there's nobody. Nothing has been said.
I'm coming back to you, but I would want you to gather your thoughts first, because I'm not sure you're aware of the Pandora Papers controversy. I'm not sure you're aware of the fact that a lot of people accused Mr. Obi of investing state money, state's resources into his family business. Probably you're not aware of this.
I'm very much aware, okay. and we've discussed that issue over and over again. And I'm also here to, if the opportunity is given,
definitely you will talk about that. But let me ask Mr. Obimbe about this thing, because it's a clause that has really been controversial. The elite capture part of that document has got a lot of people talking. Do you think Mr. Obi has a moral standing to say that Nigeria, the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems of Nigeria, is elite capture? Do you think he has the moral standing to say that? Given the fact that he was a vice presidential candidate under the PDP alongside Atiku Abubakar of the PDP right now, at some point he was a governor under Afghan. There are a lot of things we could refer to. But first off, let's address this superficially. Do you think, as a politician himself, he has the moral standing to say that, to make that statement?
Thank you. I would say sincerely that it's not about the person of Peter Obi. Whether he likes it or not, invariably by what he has gotten himself into, going this far into the Nigerian political space, and having had this antecedent and history background of having been a former governor for 8 years and over, there's no way you want to dissociate or distance yourself from the elites that you refer to today. You might want to prove that you have a different mindset, that you have a better perspective, you have a more sincere or genuine intent. However, the fact that our political structure forces you to mingle and to dine with this same category of people for you to get access to power makes it impossible for you to dissociate yourself. That is what he has to acknowledge. He needs to agree that it will be difficult for any sane Nigerian, any right-thinking layman, intellectual on the street too would agree with you that you're not a part of this elite that have so far destroyed Nigeria. They've held us under siege for too long. And because you have a history of having been part of government before, you have a history of having been in the corridors of power at several levels, you do not have that standing, that consensual standing to say that I am different from them. It doesn't happen. I mean, birds of the same feather, they say, flock together. It's difficult for you to mingle in the Nigerian political space and rise up to that point without having compromised or without having to flow or agree with what they do wrong in the political space in Nigeria. Categorically speaking, Peter Obi's standing is difficult to prove. To say you are not a part of this elite that have destroyed Nigeria thus far, it's difficult to prove it. Okay. Though you may be sincerely truthful to Nigerians, but like I said, it's about perception. Perception is reality for every human being. What we see, what we have seen, what has been the history and the antecedents make it difficult for us to believe you that you are not a part of them.
Okay, now there are a lot of issues to talk about, but even if we cannot conclude this conversation today, we definitely will come back because of our time. But first of all, let us still refer to the Pandora Papers controversy. Mr. Stanley, I'm with you now.
Yeah, me.
Now, this is an international consortium of investigative journalists-led Pandora Papers project. It is not a local investigative platform. It is international. And for an international platform of such repute to, gather information and probably evidences against one person, there must be more to it. Do you think that Mr. Peter Obi has been able to do justice to some of the questions that are asked regarding the Pandora Papers and controversy?
Well, for me, let me start off by saying to you that Peter Obi over and over again has said to Nigerians that he's not without fault. That's number one. But number two, when you put the man alongside a vast majority of Nigerians, including myself, as a pastor, I'm very sure that he stands out better than most of us. Now, the truth is, when you venture into politics, a lot is bound to happen.
That's right.
Now, the first question, like I love to deal with the fact, the first question is, these companies or whatever allegation they have, were they founded based on stolen money? Were they there before he became governor? Because I'm very much aware that Mr. Peter Obi was a let me don't exaggerate, let me say millionaire before he came back to Nigeria to do politics. Now, he has been able to provide his consistent receipts as a law-abiding citizen in the UK, where he did business for years and was successful.
Secret business dealings.
According to Pandora Papers, but he has receipt for them, for the tax that were paid on secret business. You see, for me, I say this, that
for a man we project as being transparent and very accountable.
Yes, ma'am.
What business would he have with a secret business dealing in the first place? When you term anything secret, Mr. Stanley, that means that it's prone to investigation.
Now, is it Mr. Peter Obi that called it secret? For somebody, you see, when we talk about the word secret, now we are looking at the perspective of evading the law or not doing it the right way. But I know in foreign contexts, when you pay taxes, for somebody to pay tax on a business and pays the government, I don't see why it should be termed secret. You understand? But like I said, politics is politics. If I venture into politics today and I'm vying for the position of the governor, for example, I'm very sure that somebody will have something somewhere to say Pastor Stanley ate church money, or they gave him 25,000 to fix speaker and all that. But like I said, the facts are there. This man has taxes that have been paid. We have people who have gone to prison for tax evasion. Why are they evading tax? Because the business is secret.
Okay, without further ado, let's talk about some of the issues in this policy document. Now, the second priority, according to Mr. Obi, is to shift emphasis from consumption to production by running a production-centered economy that is driven by an agrarian revolution and export-oriented industrialization, with emphasis on export-oriented industrialization. Mr. Obi is a businessman, like you rightly said, and is known to be a serial exporter, a serial importer.
Yes.
Now, for a man who is into the business of importation to want to reposition his country, according to this policy document, from consumption to production, doesn't this contradict his business sense? Doesn't this throw some questions here and there as to whether or not he's even sincere with this document in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say this, that as industrialized as America is, they still import from other countries. As industrialized as China is, she still imports. Now, the question is, what Mr. B is importing, how does it affect his principles as to developing the agrarian sector of Nigeria? Is he importing rice? The answer is no. Is he importing beans? Is he importing gari? The answer is no. So, even industrialized nations still import. But the thing is this, that what they import, to a large extent, it's not something that will affect. It's something that they are deficient on, and is required for the development of their country. Now, for international relationships, importation and exportation are necessary. For example, Netherlands made a couple of billions of dollars by exporting. Now, who are those countries they're exporting to? Probably most African countries and Western countries. So importation and exportation are a part of development. Okay. But when you begin to do it in such a way that it undermines the development of your sector, a particular sector in Nigeria or of the economy, it becomes bad. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to ask the same question from Mr. Obimbe. I'm not sure are you aware of the fact that Mr. Obi is an importer?
Obviously, it's public knowledge that Mr. Obi, being an Igbo person, and the nature of business it does is largely dependent on importation into Nigerian economy. On
a very large scale. Very recently, the Kogi State governor, I mean, he's a politician though, but Mr. Obi himself has not at any time, it's called that a rumor. He didn't disparage, or what do you want to call it now? Some of these allegations, he did not refute them. Yeah. Now, he said Mr. Obi is a very gentleman, but he's into importation and imports majority of what Nigerians consume. And here is the same man who wants to be president and plans to, reposition Nigeria from a largely consuming country to a producing country. What is your view on this?
Like I said, it's public knowledge that Mr. Peter Obi imports massively into the country. That's for his own personal business anyway, but the implication of that, what that resonates with every right-thinking person is that it's obvious that you don't give what you don't have. If this is my personal principle, this is the way I see things getting done, why would I want to come on a national scale and then contradict the same thing? Why would I want to go against what my mind says is the right thing? If you've been doing this on a personal basis for a very long time and it's been profitable to you, it's been beneficial to you, it's going to be very difficult for you to run that on a national scale. On the flip side, it's going to be quite difficult for you now to say that you want to turn us to an exports-driven economy. Now, that's even a bit scary for me because really, our politicians love to make bogus statements. I have no issues with the person of Mr. Peter Obi. I'm comfortable with the fact that he's vying for presidency. I have every reason to give him a chance to trust him. However, he needs to clearly come out and give us definitive specifics. For instance, you want to industrialize Nigeria. That has been the trajectory of all politicians in Nigeria. Give us an exact blueprint that has milestones. How do you want to achieve this? Let us see in detail how will this happen. At a point in time, this current administration, the Buhari regime, came up with the idea of banning rice importation and all of that. But they didn't create any substitute. There wasn't an alternative. There wasn't any plan in place to say, once we ban importation of so and so goods and products and services, we will be able to augment, we'll be able to supplement this with what we have. How would Mr. Obi translate his plan into action? How do we want to become an industrial nation, an exporting nation? In essence, what are the details of this propaganda? Because it is all politics. What you have not done privately, for you to convince me otherwise that you do it at a national level, it's going to be quite difficult for me to agree with.
Is it likely that it will cut existing business ties when he becomes president?
Obviously, for international politics,
or leverage his position as president, peradventure he becomes president, to even strengthen his business?
Sorry. Okay.
Most likely, his personal interest would have to take the backstage if he actually means well for Nigeria. His personal interest in business and all of that, he shouldn't be taking advantage of Nigeria, his position as Nigeria's #1 citizen, to then magnify or boost his own private business in terms of business relationship with the foreign world.
Now, when we talk about leadership, now probably I should direct this question to Mr. Stanley because he's a member of the Labour Party. I have plans to talk about your party issues, but I'm not sure we'll be able to touch on that. But let's see how it goes. But for any serious political platform that talks about leadership, especially at that level, the first thing any right-thinking Nigerian would want to inquire about is track record, antecedents. What have you done before? This is a man we've been talking about, whether or not this is true. He has neither refuted or accepted the fact that he committed some of these crimes. He's been silent in most cases.
Crimes, you mean? I beg to differ. Sorry.
Allegations.
Okay. Let me.
Now, let me land before you go ahead. Now, for a man who has been alleged now or accused of investing state resources into his family business.
Okay.
Do you think Nigerians would be out of order to ask questions as to how does he want to clean up the mess from the past, moving forward and do better?
Okay. Let me start from the issue of the importation, and I will give you an example how Mr. Peter Obi has displayed a large and a vast knowledge of what he's planned to do. Now, when Innocent was suffering setback, and before I go there, Mr. Peter Obi has said that he would do so by encouraging local production. Like I said, you see, the statement attributed to the governor of Kogi State, I would love to call it fallacy of hasty generalization. A vast majority of Nigerians consume garri, rice, beans. Let's talk of the edibles. That's what we consume.
Are you aware there are byproducts as well?
Yes, definitely. And I don't think.
You're not sure?
I don't think, because I will tell you some of his importable products.
We cannot mention brands here.
Okay. Let me not mention. But that's why I say I don't think that Mr. Peter Obi imports byproducts of what Nigerians consume. That's that about that. Now, Mr. Peter Obi has displayed this. We've seen issue where the National Assembly fought over the purchase of vehicles when it was how do I put it now? Suggested, yes, that's the right word, that innocent should be patronized. They all went for foreign products, and they insisted on their land cruiser. But are you aware that in the 8 years of Mr. Peter Obi in Anambra State, the whole official vehicles, and he paid upfront, that were used were all innocent products, and that gave innocent acceptability in Nigeria? And that's what that man did. So if there is for example, if there is someone who needs encouragement, and he has said it over and over again, Nexus, that the computers that were produced in Nigeria, Mr. Peter Obi was the largest patronage in Africa for that business owned by Nigeria. And that's what we are talking about. For me, I usually say this, that governance, every political party, they are saying the same thing. Every candidate is saying the same thing, and that's moving Nigerian forward. That's bettering the lives of Nigerians. But where I have a challenge with other people is the integrity to do what they say, to stick to the gun, irrespective. You can see that someone who told us in 2015 that 4 years will be 4 years, we will give student loan, we will do this. After 8 years of a horrible experience as a Nigerian, where over 90,000 people are looking in the world, jackbuying out of the country, you are coming back with that same narrative, that same story. Now, in various sectors where certain things Mr. Peter Obi have said that he will do, he has shown example.
Okay, do you agree with Mr. Stanley when he said Mr. Obi has shown example? Now, without having to mention brands, please don't mention any brand name here.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Obi has the biggest shopping mall in Abuja, filled with imported goods and products. We don't want to mention brands. That is to tell you that we know what we're saying here. Now, when you say that the same man encourages locally produced, local manufacturers, now so to put it, and the same man, on the other hand, has a business that encourages massive importation of foreign goods into the country, how do we marry these two variables? I'm with you now, Mr. Obimbe.
Like I
Where
said
do we place
initially,
Mr. Obi?
that conflict is difficult to accept. That conflicting interest, what you don't have, you don't give. What you are known for, you can't come to Nigerians and say you are going to take a volte-face and then do a complete turnaround, a 360 degree against your own personal lifestyle or principles. It's going to be difficult. Some of these things are not easy. It's not going to be easy to convince a right-thinking Nigerian that this is what you would do, because your antecedents are shown that except you want to shoot yourself in the heart, I mean, why would you place national interest above your personal principles the way you have been running your life? Because what it has shown is that you have made your wealth, you have built your brand, you have built your personality around importation. Why then would you come around and say the country shouldn't go in that direction any further? I mean, it is not, you are not practicing what you are not yes, you are not
Doesn't
practicing
work
what you are
any
preaching. Yes, it's difficult for us to understand that. It doesn't sink at all.
Sorry, can I just say something?
Go ahead.
Are you also aware, because the shopping mall you're talking about, I've been privileged to be there. Are you also aware that there are local products there?
We're talking about the vast majority.
No,
We're talking about
no. Are you also aware that local manufacturers, because every local manufacturer needs a platform to showcase what they have? And if I go to that mall and I see a particular product of Pandora yam and it's nice, that product begins to sell. So it's not just, you see, I know this is all politics, but let us say things.
You might call it politics.
Yes.
But we have to talk about these issues because they are very
Now we are restricted to mentioning brands, but I would hope that we have the platform to let us really say what he imports and how it affects the local manufacturer. That should be the bone of contention. What he imports. If we are privileged, because I have read these things, I have studied them. What does he import?
Okay, well, are you implying that his importation policy will be sectional? Because I don't get it.
Every importation policy of every country in the world is sectional. Even Nigeria's importation policy is sectional. Like the government tried to ban rice in the importation of rice because we have the capacity to do it, and some other byproducts. So every policy in the world in terms of importation is sectional. And I made this statement earlier that what will affect no country will allow the importation of products that will affect the economy. It's wrong, but this is what I'm trying to say. Like I said, successive governments have said all these things. Where I stand with Peter Obi is his integrity to implement,
okay,
and to see it through.
Okay, now let's leave Nigerians to continue the conversation. I'm sure that as we are conversing here, some people are also, probably arguing right now about the same issues because we have other issues to touch on. He also wants to secure Nigeria, end banditry and insurgency, and unite Nigeria to manage the country's diversity such that no one is left behind.
Okay.
Now, how does your party or how does your presidential candidate intend to do this?
Thank you very much. I was in a discourse with some group of political people, and let me just say this quickly. Even the issue of IPOP came up, and my principal's position, he has not condemned.
Why are you? Why are you quick to mention IPOP?
No, I'm going somewhere. Going somewhere.
Okay.
Boko Haram or whatever. Now, I said this to them, and I'm saying this for the whole of Ondo to hear, that first and foremost, for terrorism, banditry to thrive in any country of the world, there must be the involvement of government. As simple as ABC. Take an example. I'm in my house, for example. I have all it takes to secure my family, and somebody breaks into my house and takes my wife, and I can't do anything about it. It's either I've compromised. So what I'm saying today is that on the issue of terrorism,
what if you're overpowered by the gunmen and you can do nothing in that situation?
Very good. By the grace of God, I have sons in parastatals. I don't want to call me security outfits, and sorry, are you with me? Now, there are mechanisms put in place by government to checkmate these things. Now, for example, when the issue of the invasion of the southwest region by bandits and the Fulani herdsmen or so was threatening the southwestern region, the governors came together. They came together and they stood their ground. And they formed the Amotekun Corps that is doing greatly today. But where there is compromise, and I say this anywhere, there are certain things that start off by normal agitation. But when you have people who are behind the scene using such genuine agitations to make money, and they are in top hierarchies of government, that thing, today we are saying that kidnapping, banditry, terrorism is a big investment. Who is collecting those monies? Those monies, what institutions do they pass? So I know what I'm saying. So, Mr. Peter Obi have said it over and over again as regarding corruption. He said for there to be theft or leakage in government, you understand? I must, as the CEO of the country, you must put my interest first. You must tell me, Oga, this is your own. If I don't accept, down the line, nobody is going to accept. For example, the Minister of Petroleum of this country is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And every day the NNPC is declaring loss.
Now, we still have to look back and check the track records of Mr. Obi in that regard. He was governor, thankfully, he was governor for 8 years in Anambra State. And at that time, the security architecture in the state was adjudged to be one of the worst.
Not true.
Okay, now, as before we go into details, as an individual who has been following his track records and antecedents, how would you assess his performance as governor in Anambra State in terms of security? Now,
I was privileged to have lived most of my life within Benin, Delta, and Anambra. I was in Anambra during the time of Mbadinuju as a seminarian. I know what we experienced. I was in Anambra during the time of Ngige for the few period. I know what we experienced. And I was in Anambra.
Was that the era of the Bakassi boys and girls?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I was in Anambra also.
At that time?
Yes, at that time.
Okay.
Bakassi was majorly during Mbadinuju. Ngige inherited it, for the period he was there. And when Peter Obi came, Peter Obi put an end to it. Quote and unquote, it was said by Evans the kidnapper when he was eventually caught that Mr. Peter Obi's government drove him from Anambra State, that they could not operate. Mr. Peter Obi was the one that put into law the destruction, and not just he would cooperate with other governors within the eastern region to any business that is associated with insecurity. He will cripple it. That's a man who means what he says. That's some of the things I am talking about. The money Mr. Peter Obi spent on the security architecture of Anambra State in ensuring that the security system has, in terms of vehicles and all that, I don't think to date no governor has spent such. In fact, the reason why ABGA is still thriving in Anambra State is because they brag mostly of Peter Obi's achievement, such that the then IG of the Federation acknowledged that this man's input in the area of security is fantastic.
Now, still on security, Mr. Willie Obiano happens to be Mr. Obi's predecessor. When he left office, Obiano took over, and it was in the news widely at that time that it was Obiano who had to, clean up the remnants of these kidnappers that you mentioned. Thank God you mentioned it. Kidnappers, Bakassi boys, going from house to house to demolish what they thought to be the hideouts of some of these Bakassi people. Now, if Obi had done so well as governor, I know you want to talk.
No, sorry, I'm just trying to correct.
If Obi had done so well as governor of Anambra State during its administration, would there be the need to be, going after the so-called progenitors of Bakassi, so to speak?
So let me correct that impression. Mr. William Obiano never cleaned up Bakassi. And Bakassi was not a criminal outfit in quotes.
What about IPOB?
It was a jungle justice outfit that caught criminals.
And you say that is no crime, jungle justice.
Wait, I am saying, see, that there's like I said.
Okay,
I said, sorry, let me finish my thought.
Okay.
They worked with Mbadinuju. It's just like the vigilantes we have. They worked with Mbadinuju. Worked with Ngige around the time Ngige was governor, and when Mr. Peter Obi came in, he scrapped it. You can do your findings.
Okay,
there are videos out there.
We have to bring you back, Mr. Stanley. I'm sorry, but because of our time, and we have another discussant with us, Mr. I'm sure you're not. Are you angry already?
No,
of course you are not. Okay, so now we're still on security, which is one of the most critical problems Nigeria has at the moment that needs to be settled as soon as possible. Now, IPOB is there in the southeast, philandering, enjoying whatever privilege it is that they are enjoying, because if there is no support from government, he rightly said that for security to fester for so long, there must be the involvement of some people, some elements within the coffers of administration. Now, would you say that Mr. Obi had done well to, leverage his influence as presidential candidate and one-time governor to settle some of the issues regarding IPOB in the southeast? Remember that at some point he was said to have made comments that probably offended the sentiments of some people about IPOB when he said that IPOB was not to be declared as a terrorist organization. How would you then say that you want to work to solve security when you have such principles, Mr. Bimbe?
Truth is that as of now, since he wants to garner votes from the southeast, he wouldn't dare go that route having to speak against IPOB. If he does that, it will be whittling down his chances in the southeast. So I want to be as fair-minded as possible in analyzing persons and what goes on around politics. As of now, if he makes any comments that is derogatory or that is against the IPOB team, it will not count in his political favor. And so for that reason, he would maintain silence. But obviously...
So we should, as a people, we should allow such comments to pass.
The fact would have been that if he was to place security of lives and properties ahead of his political aspirations, he should step in right now, speak with the governors in the southeast, use his political influence and his position of whatever it is at whatever level, and then try and see if IPOB can listen to reason, because it is unrealistic, it is a shame to the nation that as we speak today, IPOB is still in control, clamoring for sit at home orders, and it is even getting to the point where people are losing their lives in clashes with IPOB. So it is against the principle of fairness and ethics that you say you want to run a country and your zone, your region is boiling under insecurity. Then how do we want to count on the fact that when you become our president, you'll be able to curtail insecurity? If you haven't been able to do that at your regional basis at this point in time, you are not convincing me that you can do it at a national level.
Sorry, let me cut in quickly. I beg to differ, for God's sake.
Briefly, because of the time, just
okay.
1 minute to go.
Mr. Peter Obi is a candidate. He's not the governor. He's not the president. When he was governor, we saw what he did. And I say again, you see, when we see the activities of these elements Why is it that whenever they attack?
Now let me ask you a pointed question.
Okay.
As an individual, do you think that IPOB should be declared a terrorist organization?
Based on the international indices for declaring a sect as a terrorist, IPOB shouldn't be. Yeah, based on the international indices. In fact, the likes of Boko Haram and banditry should have been long declared terrorists.
All right. Is there? I don't know if there is any thing you want to add to that, Mr. Obimbe.
Honestly speaking, we'll go on and on. Let's pray.
Because of our time, I had already said that we have to bring back this conversation. Yeah. Hopefully. But for now, we have to go because of our time. Mr. Stanley
Okwokenye,
thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. My
and
pleasure.
Mr. Obimbe Adeniro, it's good to have you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Until next week, when we will be back to continue, maybe not, to continue this conversation or talk about other issues on the